Hi, everybody. I'm really looking forward to our chat today with two of my good friends. And the subject is going to be something that I think a lot of you have enjoyed: baseball memorabilia collecting. Let's say hello to Evan Sirkin on the left and Rob Powells on the right. Thanks, guys, for being with me today.
Thank you.
Great to be with you, Ross.
Both men grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and over the years, well, they've collected numerous baseball items. Evan is a respected attorney who has focused on acquiring sports tickets, mostly baseball tickets, scorecards, programs, and other fun things. Rob is an entrepreneur who's been successful in starting his own business. His hobby for years has been buying and selling baseball cards. According to sports memorabilia companies, sports tickets are gaining in popularity for collectors. They are rarely scarce, and in most cases, incredibly rare in comparison to trading cards. And Evans had quite a collection of those over the years. The sports tickets can be, they got to be saved and preserved, and that happens infrequently. Tickets were never intended to be collectibles. Most tickets end up buried in the trash. Tickets that were saved almost always exhibit severe condition problems. Evan, how'd you get started?
Well, I got started because I attended the 1974 World Series, the year the Dodgers played the Athletics. And I was a kid, I was about 12 years old. And I just thought the ticket looked beautiful compared to the normal tickets during the season. And I started picking them up off the ground when we were leaving. And my mother said to me, "Stop picking up that garbage off the ground." And I basically ignored her because it was really like, it was like picking up money off the ground in hindsight.
Yeah, terrific. Though introduced to the public in the mid 1860s, not long after the game's inception, baseball cards were not mass produced until the 1880s. First, they were placed inside tobacco brands, and then starting early in the 1930s, they began showing up in packs of chewing gum. Not until the 1980s did baseball card values skyrocket, thanks to the public's deep interest in nostalgia and the explosion of the popularity of rookie cards featuring players in their first season. Rob, how old were you when you became interested in baseball cards?
Actually, I was 10 years old, and I started collecting. Actually, when the A's and Dodgers played in the '74 World Series, that's when I started collecting as well. That same year.
Same time. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and I was I mean, a lot of stories I can tell, but that's when I started collecting and became OCD about baseball cards. And so, Ross, you can ask me whatever you want, but that's when it began.
Evan was our neighbor for many years. One day I walked across the street and we started talking about baseball, and I mentioned that my favorite team growing up were the Pirates. And Evan said, "Well, why the Pirates?" I said, "Because my dad went to college in Pittsburgh and he was a Pirates fan." And before the Pirates and Yankees got started the next day in the 1927 World Series in Pittsburgh, my dad walked over to Forbes Field and the Yankees were taking batting practice. And he walked down the steps toward the field and he saw a man seated alone. So he took a seat next to him. They began to talk, and Dad soon realized that the man was Hall of Famer Honus Wagner, one of the greatest Pirates ever. Now, at one point, Dad turned to Honus and he said, "You know what? I think the Pirates have a chance to win this series." And Wagner looked at him and he said, "Do you see how far these Yankee guys are hitting the ball today? The Pirates have no chance." He was right. the Yankees swept the Pirates in 4 games, even though they slugged only 2 home runs, both of them by Babe Ruth. Well, when I finished my story, Evan got up to leave the room and he said, "I'll be right back." A couple of minutes later, back he comes and he handed me something. I looked at it and it was a ticket to the 1927 World Series. Evan, how'd you get that ticket?
Well, I believe I bought this one in an auction a number of years ago. And what I try to do with the World Series tickets is I try to collect at least one ticket from each team that played in the series. So here I've got the Pirates on the top in game 1, the very game your father attended. And then below is game 3 at Yankee Stadium of that series. And then the other thing I try to do is collect the press passes, which are even more rare than the tickets. Really, the great thing about tickets is they, in a sense, they all have a serial number because they have a seat number on them. And we know exactly how many were printed. We know what the attendance was for each game. And so, we know what the rarity of the items are. And that's been very interesting to me to, be able to determine, the fact that there's just not that many of them out there and how many of them survived. And then to try to find them in good condition. These are all both in pretty excellent condition, as you can see. Usually they're torn, and so at the gate, somebody would grab it and tear it in half, which would be horrifying for a baseball card, obviously. But for a ticket, that's normal activity. So that obviously the tickets are never going to be in the condition that a card is, because you're carrying it into the stadium, it gets torn, then it goes into a pocket, and maybe it gets a beer spill on it. They're very difficult to find in reasonably good condition.
Show us a few of the memorabilia treasures that you have.
Oh, do you mean other than tickets, like what you're looking at behind me?
Yeah, just anything you want to talk about that, has to do with baseball collecting.
Well, okay, so this one is great. This sign behind me is the original press box sign to Dodger Stadium. So in 1962, that we're now celebrating the 60th anniversary of Dodger Stadium, this was one of the original signs there, which would direct you to the press box. And that's something I had. Both you and Vin signed this. I've autographed it, and it's here in my room.
And it's pointing at Ross as well on the video screen, so it's perfect.
Oh, good. And then over here, I have a World Series trophy. This happens to be Don Newcomb's trophy that he was given in 1988. He was an executive with the team at that time. And one of my best friends is Don Newcomb Jr. And so I was able to obtain this from the family. These trophies, one of these trophies is Vin's trophy. This is a Vin Scully's trophy that he received. It's a Telly Award from 2014. And this had to do with a call he made regarding a play that Puig made. And so he won for that particular call in that game.
You've also got 2 other World Series trophies, don't you?
Well, they're not mine. I have them in storage for you. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have enough room, and so over in our home. So Evan was nice enough to say he would take care of it, and he's helping me along on that.
I've got room too if you ever need space, Ross. And and Evan, if you ever want to sell your 1927 World Series tickets to the Yankees, that's the year of Murderers Row. Yankees, best team ever. If you ever you ever want to depart, let me know.
What else, Evan? You have handy there? I know you got a lot of things that you were showing Rob and me before we came on here.
Well, I have a few things here that pertain to Dodger Stadium and the anniversary of Dodger Stadium. So here is a ticket to the only game where the Dodgers won the World Series at home in their history.
That's right.
And that's game 4 of 1963. And of course, Koufax pitched this game and beat the Yankees and helped to sweep the Yankees. And there's the ticket and the program. Very nice.
There it is. Full
program.
Yes, also, here is a ticket to the grand opening of Dodger Stadium People probably don't realize this, but the day before the first game at Dodger Stadium, there was a grand opening event. And this is a ticket to that event.
Hmm.
And that's pretty hard to come by. There were only a few thousand people invited to that event.
You've also
then-
got an old seat from Dodger Stadium, right? I remember seeing that one time.
Well, actually, I'm sitting in them right now. These are the old seats from the club level. And I'm sitting in
Oh,
one of them
yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here is the program and the ticket to the first game at Dodger Stadium
Hmm.
in that year in April of '62.
Wally Post hit the home run for Cincinnati.
That was the first home run hit at Dodger
Went up
Stadium.
in extra innings, I believe. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, along the way, if you think of something else you want to show us, please do so.
Well, I've got plenty here. I've got stacked up ready to show you if you want me to go through it.
You go ahead and run with it. Yeah, why not?
Very good. Okay, so recently there was an auction. There were two really big important auctions recently. One was the ticket to Jackie Robinson's first game that he ever played on April 15th, 1947 at Ebbets Field. That ticket set a record, in my opinion. I think is the highest ever paid for any ticket, and that was $480,000. That just occurred within the last month.
Wow.
And then following up that, the Hunt Auctions company sold a ticket to Babe Ruth's called shot home run in the 1932 World Series. That's this ticket right here. And that went for quite a bit of money as well in the Hunt auction, which really shocked us. This ticket, my wife yelled at me when I bought it 20 years ago. And when she saw the price of the auction recently, she asked me if I have two of them. So now suddenly she's interested in what I've been collecting all this time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I have some other very famous games. So this is a press. I really love the press passes. They're even more rare than the tickets.
That's right.
This is a press pass to the Bobby Thompson home run game
Wow.
at the Polo Grounds. So that's
1951.
1951 National League playoff. That's right.
Off of Vic Wertz.
Right. No, you're thinking of the
Willie Mays catch.
Ralph
Willie
Branca.
Mays catch. Yeah,
Willie
that's a
Mays catch,
different
sorry.
one. Yeah. And then just recently, this item also was auctioned off recently. This is a press pass from the 1962 World Series, which was played in San Francisco. And you'll see it's in the shape of a candlestick for Candlestick Park. So it's a little unusual to have these press passes in sort of a die cut shape.
And that was the Yankees and Giants, and it rained and rained and rained. And it took them forever to
Right.
finish the series, didn't it?
That's true. Yeah. That went 7 games, as you know. So this is a radio TV pass. So very few of these were produced. NBC broadcast that year. And so the people working for the broadcast were using these passes.
All right. Now tell us, do you have to make deals with somebody? Do you get on the internet and find things like that?
Well, over the years, I've been collecting from lots of different sources. So other collectors and I will trade things. We will sometimes sell back and forth as well. eBay was very helpful in finding a lot of items when that started. I've been on that since 1998, finding items, looking for items. And I go to flea markets. I go to all kinds of shows and whatnot, trying to find these items.
Wow.
So it's been a great treasure hunt. It's been a lot of fun collecting them. Here's one I think you'll be interested in, Ross. So here's another die cut. This is one of the kind of holy grails of these die cut passes in the shape of an elephant for the Philadelphia Athletics in 1931 World Series. And this one was Christy Walsh's pass. I don't know if you know Christy Walsh. He was the manager. He was the business manager for Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. He's the one who put on the exhibition games when they would play in the off season and tour around the country. So that's a very fun item. And then a fellow broadcaster of yours, I'm sure you'll appreciate this too. This is Mel Allen's pass from the 1950 World Series.
Yeah.
And of course, he was broadcasting the game. So it just says radio on it.
Yeah.
And he was one of the broadcasters for the Yankees at that time.
Yankees beat the Phillies that year. Dodgers got knocked out the last day of the season on a Dick Sisler home run in the 10th inning. Okay, Evan, thanks. So that's a good run through, and we'll get back to you a little bit
You're
later.
welcome. Yeah.
Rob and our son, Dr. Ross Porter, have been close friends for, I figure, about 45 years. I remember one day, you told me this, one day you got a phone call from a stranger. He may have been just going through town, and he wanted to make a trade of cards with you. So your wonderful mother, Harriet, drove you to meet him. Remember that? How old were you?
Well, actually, okay, so what I used to do, I actually know what you're referring to here. What I used to do when I was 10, 11 years old, I'd put an ad in the old Recycler newspaper, the free ads that circulated in LA in the 70s and early 80s. And I say wanted baseball cards and baseball memorabilia. And I put my phone number on it. And I was 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, 13. So people, grown men would call and say they have collections. And this is really before baseball cards took off. And this one guy, remember who we were referring to, this one guy calls me and I'm like 11 years old. And he has a bunch of baseball cards. He says, if I give him $100, he'll sell them to me. And he's describing the cards to me over the phone. And I know what they are. So I told my mom, I go, Mom, can we meet this guy at Reseda Park, corner of Victory and Reseda Boulevard? And this guy wants $100 for these cards. And so my mom, we pull into the parking lot, and the guy's a double cab pickup truck. He's got at least 10,000 baseball cards. I mean, just boxes and boxes. And they're all 1957 to 1963 tops. I mean, Clemente, Koufax, Mantle, Mays, Aaron. I mean, you've got them all. I mean, like 10, 15, 20 of each one. It was insane. And I said to him, I felt bad. I said, these are actually worth more than $100. Are you okay with that? And he goes, yeah, just get rid of them. I don't want them. I don't want to see them anymore. Just take them. I'm like, okay, I'll take them. And so I took them. And about a month later, I got a table at the Anaheim Convention Center at a baseball card show and set them out. And I didn't even bring most of the cards. There's so many triplicates and so many copies. And I made about $5,000 in that one day of just selling these cards. And I still had most of the collection.
One day, $5,000.
One day, $5,000. And so I was like 11, 12 years old. And so I would always put ads every Thursday morning. The ad came out in the Recycler for years. And my mom would drive me all around the San Fernando Valley, LA, buying baseball card collections. And on top of that, my father would go to the Saga swap meet every Sunday. For about 10 years, he and I just want to get out of the house on Sunday mornings. So we walk around Saugus Flea Market, and I'd be buying baseball card collections from people as well who are selling at the swap meet. So I amassed cards. I had so many cards, I couldn't count them. I'd measure them. I think there's like 62 cards per inch. So I just measure all the cards. And I was like what you would call the hoarder. Hoarders are now a common theme. But I was like the teenage hoarder when I was a kid. My friends would walk in my bedroom like a storage unit full of baseball cards and memorabilia. So I amassed an incredible collection because of that. And because of Ross Jr., I come into your house trading all the time. I could talk about those fun times too if you wanted to.
Yeah. You'd go in one of the bedrooms and shut the door and just negotiate, wouldn't you?
Well, it kind of started off like that. I'd walk in the door. To the left is Ross's bedroom. And we'd lay our cards on the floor. And we start asking, I'm like, I want that, I want that. He wants this, he wants this. And we couldn't agree. And Ross storms out of the room, slams the door, and disappears like 5 or 10 minutes. That's a negotiating tactic. He comes back in. I read a new offer. He gets up and goes, and just slams the door again and walks in the kitchen or wherever he goes. And he comes back after like 4 or 5 times. We finally figure out what we're going to trade cards for. And so that's why some of the things I traded, I'll show you some things I got from Ross over the years.
All right.
One are these tickets that you got, Ross, that you gave to your son, Ross Jr., 1947 All-Star Game, the 1959 World Series, Dodgers, White Sox, and a few other tickets as well. But I also got and Ross Sr., these all came from you to your son, Ross. If I haven't opened this up in years, this is if I can get to it here. I just took this all out of storage this last week, so I don't have these things in my office. These are all in storage. So I just did this video. Well, anyways,
Right.
I just for the interview. It's a Steve Garvey bat.
Oh.
That's beautiful. I like that.
And I've got I like little things like autograph pictures of Schmidt and Rose I got from you. I've got cards from Ross Jr. I know this was his when I was 12 in 1953. Mickey Mantle, he and I traded for.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of other cards here that came from other collectors. And
Rob, doesn't it feel like we're trying to
Dodger
preserve
autograph baseball,
history?
so good.
Doesn't it feel like we're trying to preserve history by collecting? I mean, a big part of it for me is like, I feel like a temporary keeper of all this stuff, and I know I'm going to pass it to someone else who hopefully will care about it as much as I do. And I just feel like our job is sort of to preserve history by, enjoying the items while we have them, but being able to, save them for future generation, I guess.
I agree. I'm like, I have the mindset as well, but I'm also growing up. These baseball cards, I put myself through college. I went back to college a few years after high school. My life has been like financially, I've been money broke. It's been great, a great roller coaster ride.
That's the life of an entrepreneur, I guess.
Right. No, but during those broke days, I've been able to sell these baseball cards to pay for my college, to pay for things.
Oh, that's
if
great.
I can't get rent paid when I was, like 20 years ago, I'd sell a baseball card. And so, and it's fine. This one here, this is my favorite card. Is a 1909 T206 Ty Cobb. I bought this for $35 at a baseball card show when I was 12 years old. It's not PSA DNA graded, but I know it's real.
Can you bring it a little closer? I want to see a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the red background polar bear.
It looks beautiful. It looks like it's in great shape.
It's a beautiful card. And I remember in 1990, I was working at a movie company over on Sunset Boulevard, earning peanuts. I mean, basically earning sunflower seeds. I wasn't making peanuts. I was making nothing. And my girlfriend at the time, she wanted to get engaged. And I said, I can't afford a ring, let alone get married. She goes, well, if you love me enough, we'll sell your Ty Cobb baseball card. And so for 2 days, I'm thinking like, gosh, girlfriend, Ty Cobb. And after 2 days, I'm thinking that's pretty unfair for her to tell me to sell my baseball card that I love so much. Needless to say, he's here and she's long gone. And I've got a 1954 rookie Hank Aaron.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's the Hank Aaron Holy Grail of cards. I bought it at a show many years ago. I've got a 1933 Gowdy Babe Ruth.
Beautiful that's card. Really beautiful. Wow.
These are the ones that lasted over the years.
Yeah.
A 1955 rookie Roberto Clemente.
Ooh.
I've got my Mickey Mantle that I showed you, the 53 Mickey Mantle, 39 Joe DiMaggio. And I've got other random ones, a rookie Johnny Bench, 68, rookie Nolan Ryan, 68, rookie Reggie Jackson, 69, and then a bunch of other Leaf Babe Ruth, Mantles. I got tons of them, but I had thousands of these superstar cards, and over the years since I've sold them off to live off of during those certain times, I've kind of dwindled them down to this. And sometimes I'll pick up something now if I like it. Like I love on a personal thing. They're not worth the whole set, maybe worth $2,000. I love the old Kellogg's cards. And so I picked up a set about 2 years ago, the 1970 set of Kellogg's. Here's a 70 Clemente and Mays. And but I've always loved the Kellogg's.
What are those called?
Kellogg's. They're those cereal cards. It came in cereal boxes.
Oh, they came out of the cereal box. Okay, yeah.
I'm sure you remember them. And
I remember, sure, yeah.
You get one per cereal box, or you can mail in a check for like $10 and buy a whole set at the time. So this is the first year they came out in 1970, and I've always wanted it. So I bought this about 2 years ago. I've always wanted the complete set.
I remember the Hostess cards too. On the Hostess boxes, they would have them. Yeah.
Yep. They on the back and cut around them and stuff.
You had to cut them out yourself. Right?
That's right. I have a few of those in storage actually. So yeah, I remember those. But I was a fan of the Kellogg's. But I love Topps and Gowdy, and the T206 sets. Those are my favorite ones. I also bought this is the first edition of Sports Illustrated.
Oh yeah.
I've got that one, and I've got, and Evan, you probably have a bunch of these as well. A lot of old Dodger yearbooks from the 60s and 70s. Just a bunch of them here.
Oh yeah. You know what's interesting about the Sports Illustrated you just show is that there is a sheet of cards.
Baseball cards, those are 54s. Yeah. Yep.
Right.
The 1954 series, but I wish they were the real deal, because you got the number the Hank Aaron, and you've got all the other Ted Williams, and a bunch of other great cards in there.
And the issue number 2 of the Sports Illustrated, right, that came after that, also had cards as an insert.
Yep. I only have the first issue. I got my Life magazines, DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and so on. They're not worth tons of money, but I just love them. And then just stacks of random cards, Aaron's, and there's Yogi Berra, and there's Rod Carew. There's some Clementes in there, and just random ones.
Well,
here.
I honestly, I think that part of collecting is that it just sort of evokes some emotion in you about the event. Yeah, I love pennants. I have a great collection of pennants
I
too
love
here.
that.
Yeah.
I heard there's a Don Drysdale bobblehead giveaway at Dodger Stadium this weekend. I
Yeah.
saw that. I was watching Dodger game over the weekend. So I got a couple of Don Drysdale old buttons I
Yeah.
pulled out of storage this weekend.
Yeah, I have got quite a few of those type of things here too. You know?
Oh yeah, I actually have that exact one. That's funny.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you. for just-
I was a
let me-
big Thurman Munson fan when I was a kid. I love the Yankees.
Let me interrupt you just a
Thurman Munson
second,
baseball
fellas.
card. Go ahead.
You're talking about Big D, with whom I worked 6 years in the Dodger broadcast booth. And back in 1993, in late June, one Saturday night, Roy Campanella passed away, Hall of Fame catcher. 1 week from that night in Montreal, we lost Don. So within 7 days,
Wow.
2 Hall of Famers gone. And the Dodgers then came up with a little thing that was in honor of them. And I wanted to show it to you today.
Yeah, we have that,
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't-
Ross,
you-
behind me on the wall here, you can see a plaque in the shape of California, and that's one of Don Drysdale's awards. And then right above that is one of Roy Campanella's awards.
Yeah. Rob, I'm gonna go back to you.
Here's a 57 Campanella
Mhm.
and
I think Rob, you could go until nighttime by showing us everything you have. It's very,
Yeah, I could.
very impressive. I
Okay,
remember,
I'll stop.
I remember a couple of years ago, we were talking and I said, Rob, what is your collection worth? And when you said $200,000, I almost dropped the telephone.
Well,
What would it be worth today?
I really don't know. I have a storage unit. The good cards are all in a safe deposit box. I just went there Friday to get them. They go back in there tomorrow. So I leave nothing really at home or in my office. But my storage unit's full of so much memorabilia. I really don't know. But what I do know is when I started my Rocket Fizz company, you know what I do for a living or did for a living, Ross. I had to sell my 1952 Mickey Mantle, and it was graded PSA DNA 6. And I sold it in 2011 or 12 when I was struggling to build my brand and had no money. It was all my company. And I just sell that baseball card, which I know is worth at least 10 to 15 times what I sold it today.
Wow.
And that card alone would probably be over $200,000 today. I sold it for nothing back during the big recession. Baseball cards took a hit, like everything else took a hit financially. So I basically had to sell it for peanuts. But collectively, I really don't know. For me, I don't need to sell this for money anymore. I'm okay now. It took quite a few years. I'm okay now. And so I don't really want to sell it. And I'm not really pricing it out to sell. I just like buying things. And
Well, also another thing is not all of your special keepsakes have to be baseball cards. I know you've got 2 special baseballs. Tell us what they are.
Yeah, that's right. I do. So you remember my stepfather, Stan Spiro. Stan passed.
A wonderful fellow. He ran KMPC radio in LA for years, very close to Gene Autry. And pick it up at that point, Rob.
Yeah, so Stan was a great guy. Married my mom. My real father passed away in 93. My mom married Stan in 98. He passed away in 2006. He was one of the original, he's a minority owner of the California Angels with Gene Autry in the early 60s, sold his interest to Gene. And like I said, did all the play-by-plays for KMPC radio. And Stan was an executive with the Angels for all those years. And I don't have these authenticated, but before Stan died, Stan gave me 2 baseballs. This one is Dave Winfield's 400th home run. And it says Stan, HR number 400, August 14, 1991. And Winfield autographed it. And then Stan said, this is Rod Crew's 3,000th hit, which I know is this very special ball.
Hey, I can't believe that's not a Cooperstown.
I know. It says Stan, 3,000 and counting, 8485, and Rod's signature on it, and an American League Baseball right here. And Stan gave this to me, and so I have to. If anyone knows Dave Winfield or Rod Carew, I'd love to get these authenticated because Rod Carew would know where his ball was, I would think.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to know if this is the real deal. I wouldn't know why it wouldn't be. Stan gave it to me and he was an Angel executive. It all makes sense. But yeah, this should be in Cooperstown. It's 3,000 fit.
That's wonderful.
So I'd like to really know if this is real enough. So if anyone knows Rod Carew, Dave Winfield, I'd love to somehow find out from these guys if this is true or not.
Why don't we take a look at what have been the most valuable baseball cards ever? And I'm just going to use the top 4. Number 4, the 2009 Mike Trout Bowman Chrome Draft Prospects Super Factor Autograph. It sold in 2020 for $3,900,000. It was that valuable because of its pristine condition. Mike's signature, they say, was a perfect 10, which is remarkable. Number 3, Mickey Mantle's 1952 Topps card, which was designed on a kitchen table in Brooklyn. It sold for $5,200,000. Number 2, a 1914 Babe Ruth, showing him as a 19-year-old minor league pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. There are fewer than 10 copies somewhere in the world today. And number 1, the 1909 Honus Wagner card, which sold for $6,600,000. And of course, the great story there, and you both know it, the fact that Honus Wagner really resented tobacco companies taking advantage of that. And he went to a position where he just banned them and had them called in as much as he could, didn't he? Let's talk about that a little bit, Evan, because you know.
Well, yeah, just for accuracy's sake, first, I want to point out that the example you're showing of the card is not the one that sold for the record because it's an altered card.
Right.
It's a very rare and valuable card, the one that's shown there, but that's definitely not the one that set the record.
Well, that's the one that was shown that I got off of the internet. So that's
yeah. I just wanted, just for accuracy's sake, to mention that. But yeah, of course, Honus Wagner was known for being against the use of tobacco. And so when they used his image on a tobacco card, he was quite upset about that. And I believe he brought a legal action to stop them from using his image. And the card company, they had to pull the cards out. And so there's very few in existence because, you know, only a few of them got out to the public before the rest were pulled out.
Yeah. Any comment about Honus Wagner, Rob?
Yeah, the 6x6 million is actually, there's actually one that's worth probably even more. That's the version that Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall, the old owner of the Kings, they bought one in the 80s for $550,000. I think it's a PSA DNA 8. I don't know if it's a Wagner graded 9, certainly not 10.
Was that a $2 million deal?
They bought it for $550. They sold it later for a profit, I'm sure. I don't know what they sold it for. But today, I don't really know who has it, but that's the PSA DNA graded 8 card. I don't think it's 9. I think it's an 8. That would easily, I think, be an 8 million plus card if it goes to.
I think Gary Cypress might have that card.
I don't know who he is.
Gary's downtown Los Angeles at a wonderful museum. He retired a few years ago, but he had one of the great baseball collections of all time.
That's wonderful.
He still does. In fact, when you go to Dodger Stadium and when they display a lot of memorabilia at Dodger Stadium on the club level, I believe most of it is from Gary Cypress collection.
Baseball cards are still mass produced, and there's no shortage of baseball cards on the market. It is estimated that more than 750,000 different baseball trading cards are in existence. Nearly 1 billion, that's billion with a B, sport trading cards have been produced since 1875. And you can count the number is constantly increasing because new ones are still in production. The number of cards produced each year is around 1 million. Some people say it's up close to 2 million. But the number of collectors has fallen. And one of the main reasons is that younger people have grown up with video games. as the most popular pastime that we've had. You go back to 1993, that was 29 years ago. There were over 4 million baseball card collectors. Today, there are 900,000. The trend of playing games on digital devices has still largely overtaken the hobby. Hobby shops have seen a decline in sales from $700 million down to less than 300 million. Digital baseball card collecting has become more prominent with technology. And I'm sure, Rob, you know about all that.
Yeah, I know of it. I know of it. It's yeah, we're older guys, so I collect the actual physical card is what I want in my hand. I'm not going to buy any NFTs or digital anything of any type of memorabilia. I want it physically. But there's a decline. It makes sense with the kids being more involved in video games and so on. If anybody wants to get rid of their collection, I think Evan and I'd be more than happy to buy their collections because they've outgrown them. But yeah, I understand that, and that's the trend now, and who knows where the future is going to be. It's hard to say.
Rob, you mentioned NFTs, and I find that to be kind of a fascinating subject because I don't think that that sports memorabilia has entered the NFT zone quite yet. And there's a lot of artwork that's in the form of NFT that is being sold, but I haven't heard about too much sports memorabilia in that form of an NFT. Are you seeing that?
I don't know a lot about it. So I stay out of I stay out of an area that if I can't speak a lot about it, I stay out of it. It's just what I hear about, but I can't speak the NFT language.
Well, I agree with you on having the physical item, because part of the joy for me is having the physical item from an event like the World Series takes me back to that moment and puts you in the position of the fan sitting there watching the game. And so that's, something that is part of the emotion of being a collector, is having the physical item. But I think there might be something to NFTs moving forward here for people to be able to see and enjoy this material in a different format.
There could be, there certainly could be, but let me circle back to something you just said. The baseball cards, and I agree with you, how it it's a certain feeling that it evokes. And, I had a great childhood. So I love when I have my baseball cards. A lot of these cards I've had since I was a kid. I still have them here. And that will take me back to days growing up over in Encino and with all my friends and trading baseball cards, and certainly going to the Porter house, haggling with Ross Jr. all the time in his house. And I have great, so I have great memories. They evoke great memories of mine. Right. I have a funny little side story. And Ross, you know my mom very well, and
wonderful woman.
I used to buy wax packs, but 36 packs per box, $20 per case. I bought wax packs and cases from 1977, 82. And one day, a bunch of 1977 unopened wax packs in my bedroom when I was a kid. And I come home from school and all the wax is off. My mom went in there and took all the gum, the rectangular gum pieces, and left the cards. I go, why'd you do that? She goes, well, I wanted the gum. I go, you just devalued the value of all my baseball cards by doing that. And so I was pretty upset. She didn't seem to really care much about it. So I took a sock, filled it with rocks, made a little pulley on my ceiling and hooked it all up. And I go to school at Portola, like in seventh grade, I go to Portola, and I come back from school. My mom has like a welt on her head and she's pissed. I go, what? She goes, what'd you do to your bedroom? I go, well, it looks like you went in my bedroom when you weren't supposed to. And she was putting laundry and the sock of rocks came off the ceiling in a pulley, smacked her in the head. She had well for 3 or 4 days. And to this day, I still don't feel bad. I love my mom, but just don't mess with my baseball cards. It took her out, and from that moment on, she never opened up any more backpacks of my baseball cards. That's a lesson learned.
That's right. And that brings up the thing that all of us have talked about in the past. Why did my mother get rid of my old baseball cards? I could have made a lot of money.
I hear that all the time. Yeah, Ross, I have a lot of your house. Growing up you guys in Calabasas, and just coming over there all the time it was just sports all day, all the time with Ross, with Wes, with all the kids and everyone coming through the house. And I have so many great memories of coming to your house. And a little synapse went off. I remember we were having dinner at your table and you just got a pager that showed you sports scores.
Yeah.
You just got it. It's like new to you. And you're looking at it. I think it was during the football season. And Lynn would like, every time Lynn would leave the table, she'd tell you, leave it alone. Don't look at the scores. When she leave the table, you'd pull it out of your pocket and look at the scores. And I'd ask you what are Steelers and Rams. I wanted the sports scores. And Lynn would come back towards the table. You put it back in your pocket and stuff. And this pager that you had. And I remember right when it came out, I was pretty excited about the future of sports scores was to pay this future.
And as I recall, you got the number from me and called them and got your own.
I probably did. I probably figured that one out. But that's
men do not have a monopoly on sports cards. There are women who also are collectors. If you sell cards and you are ignoring the market for female athletes, that might be a mistake. WNBA trading cards are up more than 1,100% in 2 years. Women's soccer cards are up nearly 200%. More people are buying cards that feature prominent women. The biggest increase on eBay's trading cards platform were for soccer star Alex Morgan, whose card sales grew by over 11,000% in 2 years. Evan and Rob, have you had any dealings with the women collectors?
On occasion, I've certainly bought and sold with women who have material, no doubt about that. Sure.
Yeah, me too. I bought from collections where like their husband passes away or the husband and wife want to sell cards. I've had that as well. So for sure.
Oh yeah, certainly. And there are dealers that are husband and wife teams that I've bought things from.
Yep.
So that's pretty common.
Baseball players have not drawn the most money in expensive pieces of sporting memorabilia. In 2019, the original Olympics manifesto was made available. It was the only copy of a 14-page manuscript of a speech in 1892 by a French aristocrat who founded the International Olympic Committee. Before that auction, it was estimated that the manifesto might be worth $1 million. It sold for $8,800,000, which was the most expensive sports souvenir in history at that time. Well, that record stood until last week. Soccer superstar Diego Maradona of Argentina scored what was called Hand of God goal back in the 1986 World Cup. His jersey that day was just sold for $9,300,000. And also 2 weeks ago, another of those #1 Honus Wagner cards, this one damaged, sold for just over $1.5 million. This version was missing 3 sides, had been trimmed, and wielded a massive crease across its middle. Yet there were 75 bids. In February, a Wagner card that had been torn in half with his jaw missing and most of his torso. Well, they got millions of dollars for that one as well. Why, Rob, would anybody pay that kind of money for damaged cards?
Well, it's not damaged cards. It's the holy grail of card is the Honus Wagner card. It's collectors. I think there's only about 60. No one really knows how many are out there, but roughly 60 in all different conditions are out there that I've read. And it's just rarity. You know, you own half of it's better than none. I don't know if I'd pay $1 million for half of a Wagner card. I'd rather spend $3 million for a better one. But it's the rarity that if you are a true baseball card collector, the dream of every collector is the Honus Wagner card and the 52 Mickey Mantle. Those are the 2 best cards. And I had the 52 Mantle that I still regret to this day, will always regret selling it. But those are the 2 big holy grail cards. The newer cards like the Mike Trout you're talking about, and I know there's a Tom Brady football card that sold for a few million recently as well. I'm not a real new card collector. I like the new cards, but I love the old cards. Pre-1970 is really what I like. And so just speaking for myself, so I'll spend money on those cards. But the newer ones, I'm amazed how like that Mike Trout card brought so much money. I think it's like a one-off, and that is why. But and he's a great player, believe me, and obviously future Hall of Famer. But people are spending the younger generation are the ones who will spend money on the newer cards. The old folks like us will spend money on the older stuff.
Sure.
Well, rarity has to do with this whole thing because clearly the old cards are the rare ones. The new cards, there's no way anyone could legally call them rare. In fact, I worked with somebody who was involved with Upper Deck baseball in the late 80s, early 90s. And I kept bugging him for a long time. He was an office mate of mine. How many cards are they producing, Upper Deck? And it took me about a year of bugging him until he finally admitted how many they produced. And he said they produced enough so that every person in the United States could own an entire set of the cards.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I mean, it's absolutely absurd for anyone to call something like that rare. And I think that's been the main problem with the more modern cards.
And that's an issue. The Ken Griffey rookie card, they mass produced that one. When it went up in value, they kept making more, and it devalued it. And I agree. The cards from the pre 1970, even the 70s, but early 70s, early 60s, 50s, and so on. They just didn't mass produce them. Even the 52 tops, the high numbers, number 311 to 407, 311 being Mickey Mantle, 407 being Eddie Matthews. Those cards are so rare because they were printed. They're printed in 3 different series. The last series was printed after the baseball season ended, and apparently they threw away on a barge off of New York in the harbor somewhere. Right. All these baseball cards and trash. So that the number 311 to 407, not as many of them got out into the public.
I remember reading that on the West Coast. We're on the West Coast here. And I remember reading on the West Coast that, some of the later series didn't even get shipped here in great quantity because the people here were still selling the first series and the second series. And they never even ordered the third series out here on the West Coast because they hadn't yet sold out of the first and second series. So, back then it was different. And also I think condition has to do with the cards, obviously, whether they're valuable, that's the key is the condition, because obviously the higher condition cards are going to be the rare cards.
Evan, let's go back to the tickets. These tickets are considered by the experts among the top ones in baseball history. And you touched upon this earlier. Game 3 of the 1932 World Series, Yankees versus the Cubs, Babe Ruth allegedly pointed toward the bleachers and then hit the ball exactly where he pointed. It was Babe's last World Series home run. And yet, gentlemen, we both know, some say he never did point.
Well, I think they have a film of it, and they do show him pointing in the film. Good. That was discovered fairly recently.
All right. July 4th, 1941. 2 months after Lou Gehrig died, the Yankees honored his memory by issuing a ticket that bore the image of the Iron Horse.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, but that ticket's interesting, but a lot of people, the reason that ticket has become so valuable is because of a misunderstanding, honestly. And that is, a lot of people think that that's the game where Lou Gehrig said, I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. But that was not the game. Of course, he was already deceased by the time that ticket was printed with his picture on it. So the real rare ticket is from the game where he made that speech, which is not a commemorative ticket at all. It's just a regular Yankee game ticket. That's really the valuable one. But the one with the picture on it is what people think was from that particular game. And so that's led to a little bit of misunderstanding over that one.
Another one, and we've talked about this, the deciding game of the 1951 National League Championship Series when Bobby Thompson of the Giants hit the home run to beat the Dodgers. Game 5 of the 1956 World Series, when Don Larson of the Yankees pitched a perfect game against the Dodgers. And game 7. What are you going to show me there?
Right there. That's it. All signed. Don Larson, Mickey
Don
Mantle,
Larson.
Yogi Berra was catching.
Wow.
Sorry, go. I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead. You happened to say something that was right behind me. Talk about something that was right behind me. But go
Right.
ahead.
Game 7 of the 1960 World Series when Bill Mazeroski of the Pirates hit a walk-off homer to defeat the Yankees. You know, that has been the only game 7 in World Series history.
Do you know the do you know
No strikeouts.
do you know the story about that baseball, Mazeroski's baseball, where what happened to it?
I have another story about Mazeroski, but go ahead.
So he hits the ball off Ralph Terry. It's 99, bottom of the ninth, game 7, Forbes Field. There's this kid named Andy Jerp, I think was his name, his 14-year-old kid. And the game was going so long, he had to go back home to have dinners. He didn't want to be late for dinner. So the old Forbes Field, there was just trees and grass. There weren't bleachers out there. So he's walking by the left field and he hears this commotion in the stadium. All of a sudden, bloop, right in front of him, this ball lands. He's like, picks it up and he has no idea what just happened. He gets home, his sisters and brother just say, "Did you and Mazeroski get the ball?" And he's like, "I just got this ball." And he realized that this is the ball that Mazeroski just hit. So all the kids in the neighborhood, everyone's excited. He has this ball. So he holds the ball in his room for a few weeks. And then his friends come over and say, "Hey, we want to play baseball, but we don't have a ball. Can we use your ball?" And he ends up using that Mazeroski baseball and goes and plays with it somewhere in Pittsburgh with his friends and loses it in some bushes and never sees it again.
Wow.
That's the story. That ball would be Cooperstown right now. Who knows what it'd be worth?
And there's a lot of balls like that have been lost. So nobody knows where the Kirk Gibson home run ball is.
The 88 off Dennis Eckersley. Yeah, we
Yeah,
never
even-
happened that ball. You're right. I didn't even.
Nobody knows where that ball is.
Yeah, I'm going to add this to it. The bat that Kirk Gibson used to hit that dramatic home run in the 1988 World Series against Oakland, that drew the 39th most money in all of the auctions. It sold for $580,000. It was his only bat in the World Series.
Russ, you were there. You should have had Kirk give it to you.
Yeah, I was in the dressing room when Vin Scully said to Joe Garagiola, "I'll tell you, Joe, one guy won't be playing tonight. That's Kirk Gibson. He can barely walk." And Gibson was watching television above it. And he said, Mitch Poole was the clubhouse attendant. He said, "Mitch, go tell Lasorda I can hit." So Mitch goes down, comes back in about 2 minutes, says, "Tommy said, tell you to get dressed, but whatever you do, don't show yourself. He doesn't want Tony La Russa, the Oakland manager, to know you're available." So Gibby put on his jersey, put on his spikes, got himself all dressed, went outside. I watched him. He put a wiffle ball in position and he hit the ball off the net for about 10 times. And somebody then turned around in the corner and said, "Okay, Gibby, you can come out." And I followed him down the tunnel. And when he hit those steps to go up, I never heard a crowd as loud as that. Meanwhile, I'm looking out over the right field bullpen and all you can see are red brake lights of cars leaving the stadium.
Yep.
And from there, it was something. And he remembered what the advanced scout of the Dodgers had told all the hitters before the game, Mel Didier. He said, "If Dennis Eckersley goes 3-2, I can bet the house with you that he's going to throw you a backdoor slider." And when he got to 3-2, Gibby stepped out. He remembered that. And what did Eckersley throw him? And that was, guys, that was like a one-handed swing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, all of us who are fans, of course, even now I've seen it a million times. It still gives me chills when I see it.
Yeah.
It
He
was,
barely made it. Hit Mickey Mantle knees. Just barely made it around the bases. That was a great moment in baseball.
Well,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you always say, "Well, I remember where I was
Right.
when so-and-so did so-and-so."
Right.
Yeah.
And Eckersley was a great pitcher. He was a wonderful
Oh,
pitcher.
yeah. He was.
he had a great career. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People forget he was a starting pitcher for a long time too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Ross,
There was one other thing I wanted to show because I know next month the Dodgers are celebrating the Sandy Koufax unveiling of the statue
yeah.
to Sandy Koufax.
But let's see it.
Yeah. So what I have here, here it is. This is the program and the ticket to Koufax's perfect game.
Hmm.
And I had Sandy sign the ticket. And when we were talking about rarity earlier, I think only about 27,000 people attended this game. And I'm not sure how many tickets exist. There's not that many that I've seen on my collecting career, which is almost 50 years now. So that's a real tough one right there.
Well, and also I'm told that nobody has the complete game film of him
No.
throwing that perfect game. Bill Bueller, who
No.
was the Dodger trainer, came out of the dressing room and went behind home plate in the ninth inning, and he filmed the ninth inning. And to my knowledge, I'm not sure they've been able to find the complete game that he hurled.
No, and Rob, earlier you mentioned the Mazeroski home run ball, and there was no tape, there was no film of the whole game until fairly recently was found. And that's a really oddball story because Bing Crosby, I guess he was a part owner of the team.
Yeah.
And he was so nervous about watching the game, he wouldn't watch it. So he paid someone to film the game on actual film. And they filmed it. He watched it later, and it was in his basement or somewhere. And later, someone from his estate discovered the film in Bing Crosby's effects,
That's
basically.
interesting. Wow.
And so now it can be shown and watched.
And I never finished my Mazeroski story after
Here's my
Rob.
Koufax card. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
In those days in the World Series, the two announcers, one from each team, shared the telecast. One to do 4.5 innings, the other to do 4.5. And for Game 7 that day, Mel Allen of the Yankees got the last 4.5. Bob Prince, the Pirates, did the first 4.5. So they got to the ninth inning, and as Rob said, it was a 9-9 tie. And so Prince then was told, okay, you go to the field because you're going to interview somebody when this game is over. So Bob goes out and gets on the elevator. He goes down the elevator. And while he's on the way down to the field, Mazeroski hits the home run. He gets off the elevator and all these players are storming past him. The Pirates are celebrating. And he walks into the Pirate dressing room and somebody hands him a microphone. And somebody shoved Mazeroski over in front of him to do the interview. Bob doesn't know that Bill has just hit the home run. And he gives the most standard interview of all time. Well, it's been quite a year, hasn't it, man? Yeah. What are you going to do now in the winter? Wow. So a couple hours go by, he's with his wife, Bob's with his wife, and they're in the car driving out to dinner. And he turns to her and says, oh, by the way, how do we win that game today? She told him, and he was so embarrassed, but that's what happened that day.
Well, you mentioned it, so I had to pull the ticket out, of course. So here's the ticket to the Mazeroski home run.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
And here's the press pass to that as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If you're a baseball collector, I'm told that the official Major League Baseball is valuable to use, but getting an autograph on one of those, what's called official league ball, is practically worthless. Is that right?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Ron. I think
Sure.
an official
Well, I was
Major League
looking
ball is
today.
what
I
you
found
want the autograph on.
upstairs. I had one of my one of the mementos was a baseball, and under it says official league ball. That's in comparison with the Major League ball, in which the commissioner has signed his name.
You want a major league ball?
You want the Major League ball with the commissioner's name on it.
That is correct.
Yeah, and before that, of course, the National League and the American League had their own individual
That's
balls.
right. That's right.
And so that's you certainly want your autograph on those type of ball.
Yeah.
And on the sweet spot, which is the main, stands right out.
And you want it in blue ink as well. That's more favorable than any other color ink.
Like that's a sweet spot, Dave Winfield right there.
Yeah.
They would.
And Roddy Curry right there.
Oh, wonderful. You remember when Charlie Finley, who owned the Oakland A's, suggested that baseball turn and go to an orange baseball. They didn't do it. But one of the Dodgers major sponsors, 76, put this out one time. And this was kind of a cute gimmick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have another one that could be considered memorabilia and maybe not. But my good friend Rich Key, who is one of the finest photographers in America, took this shot a few years ago, and I wanted to share it with you today.
Mm. That's a beautiful shot.
Isn't that wonderful?
Tommy.
And it was like it was toward the end of his career, that not his career is well gone and over, but it was toward the end of his life.
Yeah.
And Rich got this shot, and I just think it's one of the best I've ever seen.
All of us who got to spend any time with Tommy, I mean, we just treasure that time we had with Tommy. He was so much fun to be around and to talk to. And I feel very thankful that I got to spend some time with him.
Like I met him a bunch of times. Very, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. I just saw him at the Still Point 2 years ago, shortly before he passed away. We were there, Ross, over at in Tarzana at the country club over there. Tommy was there.
Years ago, I kept running into him at the stadium a number of times, and I always called him Mr. Lasorda, Mr. Lasorda. And finally, one day he said to me, "I don't want you to call me that anymore. I want you to call me Skip. From now on, when you see me, you call me Skip." I'm like, okay. So then the next time I saw him, I said, "Hey, Skip." And he looked at me like I was from Mars. Like, how dare you call me Skip? Who are you to call me Skip?
Did you tell him? You told me to do it.
Yeah, but he was just a lot of fun. It was great. Getting to know him a little bit was great.
Tell us anything we missed, anything you want to bring up we've not touched upon.
Well, I'm sure Rob and I could go on with our memorabilia collections. I mean, I know I could too.
Very impressive, gentlemen.
For hours and hours.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just been such a great joy to collect the items and to enjoy the items and to be the caretaker of the items. And, thank you, Ross, for giving me an opportunity to share a little bit of my collection today.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. A lot of my memories go actually beyond my memorabilia. It's Ross. It's my childhood being at your house all the time. For years, I'd come over and play with Ross and trade cards and goof around with your family and stuff. And those are my really fun memories. More important than my baseball cards that I traded Ross for. And I just have the memories are more meaningful.
Yeah.
And spending all those years with your family, it was a good time.
Rob, I think you and I are going to do a little trading at some point here.
You let me know. I'm all about baseball cards. If you want some of my tickets, I'll make a deal for you.
Let's make a deal.
I can't let this opportunity go by without announcing that Rob became a father for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Beautiful young man named Skyler.
Skyler, beautiful little boy.
Cool.
Yeah. Father a little bit late in life, but I guess better late than never. Yeah, it's a beautiful young boy. Hopefully future baseball player and Hall of Famer. We'll see. But he certainly has a collection to inherit one of these days.
Well, make sure that you save something from the first game you take him to.
Oh yeah,
I did that for my two sons. I got a program and the tickets from their first game that they ever went to. And that's very fun to have those.
I have 5 newspapers from the day he was born. So I'm of the same mindset. Yeah.
One suggestion for you, Rob. When he gets old enough, make him either a catcher or a left-handed pitcher.
Definitely not left-handed catcher. I know that, but yes. So yeah, it's a harder position to play and more. Yeah, I get it. I just want to be healthy, happy, and just a good, well-rounded young man. That's the important thing for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fellas, thanks so much. This has been a very memorable day. Thanks for all you've done for us over the years, and stay well.
Thanks, Ross. We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you, Ross. Thank you, Ross. You too, and my love to Lynn too.
Yep, and Evan, nice seeing you again as well.
Evan Sirkin and Rob Powells. Wow, what a collection they've had.